All right, everybody, let's take our seats. Call the meeting back to order. Rich, you're up.
Well, I know my client wanted to, there she is, briefly address you, and then I just had a few comments. So I'm going to have her come up, briefly address you, and then talk a little bit about our rebuttal, and then put it in your hands.
Good evening. People referred to our old restaurant as a diamond in the rough, an off-the-radar place with really good food, great service, and just what you had in mind when you wanted to have a reasonably priced meal, a fruity drink, and listen to island tunes by the water. And here we are again with a piece of property that is definitely rough, but whose day is finally coming to be a shining diamond for the city. When we were doing our due diligence on this tract of land, we saw previously proposed plans for a food truck park, a boat storage facility, an apartment building, and even residential homes. All were abandoned because the projects could not get approved, or the cost put upon them from the zoning requirements made them unaffordable. I think because we were so desperate to get back into business, we thought for sure Bonita Springs would want to help rebuild one of the oldest businesses in the city and would work with us to make it happen. If anyone would have told me that it would take us 5 years to get back into business, we definitely would not have wasted the last 3 years of our lives and almost $1 million in fees and studies that we have. Why does it take this long? But here we are this evening, just a vote away from possibly being yet another project that was just another great idea and could leave the vacant land sitting for the next set of dream seekers. Our family is prepared to make an additional $20 million investment into Bonita Springs. This is a lot of money to us. Maybe it's not to some other people here, but it's a lot of money. It's a big investment. We're going to build a first-class waterfront restaurant and 2 small retail buildings. They'll have unique local and regional shops. Every year that goes by, the cost of construction goes up, labor wages and insurance go up, and more conditions are put upon us. But we're really at a breaking point. This is what we have to propose tonight. That's what we can offer the city. And, you know, we have worked so hard to get to this point. We've given every concession we've ever asked. We even came tonight with things that you didn't ask for. Please, just give us a chance. There really isn't anything like our concept here in the city's boundaries. With a location close to the beach, it will be a highly sought-after amenity for vacationers and residents alike. Our projections show that over 150 jobs will be added, over $1 million in state and local sales tax collected, and hundreds of thousands of dollars in property taxes added to the tax roll every year. We have a proven track record of being a good neighbor, with our previous location being the only commercial business within a totally residential area. We did not have any violations from the city because we played our music too loud or broke any other codes. I feel in this process we have been unjustly vilified, that we are bad actors that are going to throw all common sense out the window, blast music, have cars backed up on the road, and boaters running wild in the canal. We are business people. We're not going to let that happen. If we didn't already have a track record in operating a waterfront restaurant in the city, maybe I would expect to have a short leash and heavier restrictions on how we operate our business. But every new study or consultant that keeps being added before we can even get to construction just keeps slow rolling us and is making the project unaffordable for us. Further restrictions on how to operate our business by limiting our music, mandating a valet service, it's just unaffordable for a business to operate that way. We don't need a traffic study. We already have charts that show every single restaurant to the west of on Bonita Beach Road are underparked, severely underparked. We're not that way. We have developed our plan to allow for 160 spots of parking. Who's going to park there? Beachgoers, because there's no beach parking down for them. They will park in our lot and walk down there. How are we going to control that? As far as the comments about the drive-through, I don't know when drive-throughs became such a bad thing. I purposely drive out of my way a good mile or two when I want to get something to drink and I don't want to have to get out and go in to get something. They're not bad things. We've spent 2 years redesigning this drive-through for staff to agree that it's a good thing and that they approved it in the plan. And we're next to a 7-Eleven, for goodness sake. There's nothing more traffic heavy than a gas station and a convenience store. Ours is going to be back behind that nice wall and all that landscaping. Believe me, we're not looking for a Chick-fil-A or anything like that. It's just something that the residents on Little Hickory Island and Barefoot Beach can go and get a coffee or they can get a sandwich without having to fight the traffic and go up to 41. It's a convenience. Everyone lives with it, but there isn't one anywhere close to Little Hickory Island. The people that are here tonight voicing opposition to our project are the neighbors behind us. I call that the not in my backyard syndrome. I would venture to say if this is just 0.2 of a mile down the road where the new data center is that's being approved, they would think that our place would be a cool place to walk and enjoy dinner and music. We will be a good neighbor, but with any successful relationship, it's a two-way street. You've been very generous with your time listening to me and my team's presentations. I want to publicly recognize my appreciation to my team that has done an outstanding job over the last 3 years. If we don't get approved, it isn't because we haven't given our best effort. Your vote tonight will let the public know if you're listening to what they want to see developed on this piece of property and what a great amenity this is going to be for the city of Bonita Springs. I ask for your positive vote tonight. Thank you.
It's kind of tough to follow, but a couple of things I just wanted to hit on and that I think has been lost. And I want to compliment your first speaker. I thought she was excellent. She brought up some points about philosophy and argument. And I think what's happened is what we've lost, and we didn't put it back in the record, but was at the first hearing when you heard from all of the experts. You heard from the traffic expert. You heard from our traffic expert. You heard from our environmental expert. You heard from our planning expert. You heard from all of the experts, and they all testified we met the requirements. And it wasn't only our experts. It was your experts. And this is a different hearing. This is a quasi-judicial hearing. And it's based on competent, substantial evidence. The people who spoke about traffic are not traffic experts. The traffic expert said we meet your code. They know. Some of these people are in the construction industry. Some of them are attorneys that are familiar with the fact that we have to get a water management district permit, which means we have to get our drainage system approved by experts. If we can't get the permit, we don't get a project. So I don't understand someone who's in the business getting up there and saying these issues are unresolved. They are not unresolved. They get resolved as part of the development order process. They want you to change the process for us You're not allowed to do that. We meet the requirements. There will be a traffic review by an expert. The attorney who spoke says he's not an expert. I fought the urge to cross-examine him because he's trying to testify like he's an expert. He would be filleted in a cross-examination on the fact that he has no credentials to testify to anything he testified any more than I did. That's why I put my experts up. He doesn't have an expert. You don't have an environmental expert contradicting my expert or your staff expert. You don't have a traffic expert contradicting my expert or your expert. You don't have any experts contradicting our testimony. We have tried very hard to address concerns that were raised. We are moving the docks because of very legitimate concerns that were raised through this process about the narrowness of the canal. We limited the hours of operation during the week to a reasonable 9 o'clock hour. I don't think that's unreasonable. I go to bed early, I get up early, but you know, the rest of the world can stay up till 9 o'clock at night. It's not that late. We have a very good project. The rule of thumb for commercial development is 10,000 square feet per acre. That's the general rule of thumb when you developed commercial property. We're at half. We're at less than 5,000 square feet an acre. That is not an unreasonable request. We have provided all the safeguards that you've requested of us with regard to outdoor music. We have the 1-year review. With regard to all of this, if we don't have sufficient plantings because the mangroves somehow are destroyed, we have to replant. We have that obligation. That's all there. They're protected. Everybody's protected. We've done a very good job. Your staff's recommending approval, other than on the parking that I brought up. And again, we don't want to die on that hill, but I think what we propose is a reasonable parking standard. But everything else that we have agreed with your staff on everything except for the minor tweaks to the language that I showed you about. You know, you should null and void the ordinance, and it shouldn't apply to the consumption on premises, the 1-year review. Other than that, I think we're in lockstep with your staff, other than parking. With that, we are going to be a good neighbor. The hardest job I have, and my client has, is to bring out support. It is so easy for neighbors to show up and talk. Maybe there was 10. That's not all of Bonita Springs. All of Bonita Springs is all of Bonita Springs. The zoning on this property has been commercial for long before your recent speakers have spoken. Pretty much every one of them. Retail, commercial, restaurant uses have been allowed on this property since before they bought their property. What they want, like everybody else wants in every other jurisdiction, is they want you to buy the property and have it remain vacant, or vote us no with the hope that the property will remain vacant. That's what they want. We can all, that's my argument. That's what I think. That's my experience in doing this for 35 years. We are going to be good neighbors. We have a proven track record. We have a staff recommendation of approval. We have a planning board recommendation of approval. And we are requesting that you approve our CPD rezone with the modifications to the staff conditions. And again, I'll leave it in your hands on the parking issue if you want to go with what I proposed or go back to the original language of our just getting an administrative deviation during the development order phase. We're available to answer any questions you may have, and we request your approval of our project.
I just had one question or clarification. I thought you said parking, or your idea of parking was down to 105, but I think Tracy had mentioned 160 when she said.
That's the total on site is 166.
Okay.
But associated with the restaurant, instead of 97 as we originally proposed, we went to 105, which included the 166 on-site spaces plus 8 of the slips counting. Sorry, I'm spinning a little bit. Of the 8 of the slips counting to get to the 105. But there are 166 spaces on site, of which 106 would be, or 105, I'm sorry, would be applicable to the restaurant.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant before we go back to staff? No, we're done with public comment, sorry. Yeah, public portion's over, sorry. Okay, if staff wanted to come back up, I had a couple questions. I don't know if anybody else does for staff, but.
Thank you, and there are a few items I'd just like to get some direction on, and we can clarify it as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, as far as the Bonita Beach Road median cuts, it was mentioned that that was going to be looked at by Lee County. So they may possibly close those cuts or make it to where it's, right turn in, right turn out only, or maybe a median cut to make a left turn in, but no left turn outs. When will we know that? And
That review takes place at time of local development order. It is within their right to close medians if necessary, but within their review this time, they took a look at the existing medians, made sure that the alignment matched. So again, we won't know what they decide until that time, but they did review it this time as well.
okay, and with the parking, when will staff be comfortable with a direction for parking at the DO, or and how's that work? If they go with what they're suggesting now, and you guys aren't comfortable with that, does that just mean going back to the valet option?
The way they have it currently written is a 2-year test period based on the calculations that they provided supposedly from other jurisdictions. Again, we haven't had time to cross-reference. Staff would propose that the language that we originally had in there that allowed for a valet plan, it allowed for a review of a parking reduction at DO, and it allowed for lesser square footage of the restaurant utilized if they choose not to have the valet, be the existing condition, because again, that would give us time to review all of those things at DO. To approve something without enough analysis and then have a 2-year test period can have very many unintended consequences.
So we'd be more comfortable with figuring out at DO.
Correct, and to keep the language that we have proposed for you.
Okay, and I happen to agree, with drive-throughs, when did they become a bad thing? Would the absence of the drive-through equate to needing more parking for a restaurant there? Because I would think that having the drive-through, more people would, or who knows if it's more people or not, but that would reduce how many people are going to be eating in the restaurant and taking up parking spots.
So our restaurant parking calculations are different for, we call those fast food restaurants. It's one less space per 1,000 square feet. But again, if they came to us with reduction language stating, well, we can accommodate this many cars to be stacked within the drive-through, and that means our kitchen is bigger here and we have less indoor seating, we can always look at if that would constitute fewer spaces. But as they currently have it proposed, the drive-through restaurant requires 26 spaces, and then their additional fast food restaurant that they're proposing, that's 1,000 square feet, would be 13 spaces.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because my main things are just protecting the residents that live back there, so a lot to do with the noise and the headlights in the parking lot. So as long as we're keeping that taken care of.
So if I may reiterate a few points, the applicant and staff are in agreement that the live music stay to be not permitted unless at time of development order they provide us the sound study that shows how they can accommodate that. What we don't agree on is that condition 9 applies to both outdoor consumption on premises and live outdoor music if permitted. I can agree that we do not intend to null and void the entire ordinance during that conditional period, but we do want to make sure that the ability for outdoor consumption on premises and live outdoor music are both looked at within a year time frame or upon 3 valid violations. So it would be council's pleasure if they would like that condition 9 to apply to both the outdoor consumption and live outdoor music, or solely for the live outdoor music. In other scenarios, we have had it apply to both. And those are both looked at either upon the 3 violations or the 1-year time frame.
Well, how would we know if the violation was caused by the outdoor consumption or the music? I mean, if it's a noise ordinance, it would be the music.
Unless there was no live outdoor music that day, and they're just constituting a noise violation.
Chris, you had a question?
Yeah, basically, all we're doing tonight is voting on deviations from our zoning ordinance. We're not getting into the LDO, how things are constructed. And, you know, a lot of the concerns that the neighbor has had is how things are going to be constructed. So all we're doing at this point is it's looking at the zoning ordinance and approving whether or not a deviation can be applied such that the applicant can move forward with more plans to submit to community development for approval. Included in all that will be whatever approvals are needed with Lee County, with the Florida Wildlife Commission, with the other environmental requirements met. You know, we're a long way from starting construction at this point. So I just want to make it clear that all we're doing tonight is looking at, is this idea, is this planning that's been done to date worth modification of the zoning ordinance to allow this thing to go to its next step in terms of construction plans and other approvals.
Correct. Today you are reviewing the zoning ordinance for future entitlements, which would include uses, property development regulations, deviations, and the conditions that they will be bound by.
So with that being said, you know, I will support the applicant's deviation.
I'll second that motion.
De-
We didn't make a motion.
I will make a motion to approve the deviations required by the applicant. I will make the noise, with respect to your question as to how to apply the noise ordinance, I will make that motion to apply to the noise ordinance to the music only, because, you know, I don't see the point of having a noise ordinance apply to people sitting around a table carrying on conversations. And there was one other thing that you had a question about.
There were actually just a few more. So we have, how we have it currently written is that all wet slips that are approved, whether that be the 25 they're proposing or, you know, if reduced by the Lee County Manatee Protection Plan, shall be located westernmost of the project. Mr. Fuller, can you clarify if you intended for the dock to be removed on the eastern part on the plan?
No,
Go ahead.
what I believe Councilman Corey's, he is recommending approval based on the applicant's proposed deviations, not each item. So that's his motion to make, not to, if he doesn't address those issues, then
Okay, as they
they
agreed.
propose them with does that, and so the question is, of the proposed changes,
as of the revised
Memos, yeah.
conditions provided today.
yeah, including the revision on the
Item 9.
ordinance, on whether or not it invalidates the ordinance on the review.
Right, which
With the-
was
with the-
clarified. Go ahead.
So I just want to make sure I'm getting it right, because there's
But can the applicant request that they make the changes that we discussed this evening tonight?
And I just,
Yeah.
Mr. Rooney, when I offered up to move those slips, that was a request.
Okay.
So I just want to make sure that we're giving up those 8 slips.
I want to include your request in my,
Okay, I just want to make sure, we made that commitment, we're not taking it back, and,
Right, that's
Thank
how
you.
it's written, but does that include removing the dock?
no, the dock is there, it's already, we will put up appropriate signs that says no mooring permitted at this point, but it's an existing dock,
There will be no docking facility
Correct.
available. It's a walkway, basically.
Right,
Okay,
right,
just so we can all be on the
Yes.
same-
right. I just want to make sure we were not taking anything back.
Yes, okay, so that condition remains the same. And then today they requested that there be mangrove trimming allowed for view shed purposes, except where the specific deviation language talks about how headlight glare is an issue. And so if we can clarify those specific locations at this time, so we can all be of the same understanding, that would be helpful.
Yeah,
If you want to, or I can show you on the map.
Yeah,
What,
just pull up the master
Yep.
plan and I'll show you from this point to the east.
mm-hmm.
Basically, where the deviation applies is there.
Okay, it would
Because-
also,
No, it doesn't, because this is where the parking is. The deviation is regarding.
it's
to
also
where-
for drive aisles. And so if you trim this, this will be visible over here. And same right here. Right, so if you're going to trim it, we want to make sure there's adequate shielding for the residents, and that would include this area as well, because you
Well,
have people
our
entering here.
understanding really is that the deviation applies. We would agree, no trimming from here to here. Basically along the canal.
okay.
The open bay, where we're talking about people having a view while they're eating dinner to look at the water, we would request the ability to trim those mangroves. Because cars are gonna be going this way, you can see, they're not going this way and shining their lights.
And then what about
in the
right here when they
residences.
enter?
This, what I'm saying is from here to here.
Okay, but
That's
this
we're
gives us
marking on the master
consternation,
plan.
just so you're aware.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a reasonable request, and I incorporate it in my motion.
The existing dock that's there, if it's gonna be a walkway, is there gonna be like a railing along there to inhibit somebody from still docking there and getting out?
We'll have to address whatever safety requirements are, but we'll absolutely put signage up there to make it very clear. You can't moor your boat here.
No cleats.
Okay,
Let's not, we can deal with that at the DO stage.
right, but the concept is, we'll make it clear that you can't put your boat there.
To me, those are things we deal with at the LDO level, so, anyway. So, that's my motion to approve.
There's
That, with the changes that the applicant has requested.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah.
Laura, you were on the thing first. Do you have a discussion?
No, I just wanted to move along.
Okay. Jim?
I just want to clarify specifically what are the deviations to the original deviations requested. I have parking as an issue. 2, I've got the consumption versus consumption and music. The movement of the wet slips to the western portion, and then the issue of trimming. So we're voting to basically adopt those above and beyond what was originally in here and presented for the packet.
And also the limited hours of operation for the outdoor music, we reduced that to 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock.
In hours of operation. Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure I'm comfortable with what the vote's on, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Nigel? You good?
I'm good.
All right. You have a motion and a second? Roll call.
Councilmember Corey.
Aye.
Councilmember Fullick.
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Bogas.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Purdon.
Aye.
Councilmember Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Gibson. Motion carries.
Who's the big mouth?
What'd she say, we got bribed?
All right. Moving.
Good luck.
All right, moving on to the consent agenda.
Motion to approve?
Motion
Second.
at the end of the meeting, correct? Motion and a second?
Councilmember Fullick.
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Bogas.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Purdon. Councilmember Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Gibson.
Aye.
Councilmember Corey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And the next item is another public hearing.
Oh, gosh.
All right, you want to read it?
This is the second reading of an ordinance establishing Vivid Shores Community Development District pursuant to Section 190.005, subsection 2, Florida statutes, providing for the establishment of the Community Development District, describing the external boundaries of the district, naming the initial members of the Board of Supervisors, naming the district, providing that the city of Bonita Springs may not and shall not modify or delete any provision of the district charter set forth in sections 190.006 through 190.041 Florida statutes, providing for conflict and severability, and providing an effective date.
Council, this is a community development district being proposed for the BG Mine property. The applicant is here, as well as counsel, Alyssa Wilson, for the applicant. If they have a presentation, if you want to go through the presentation, just generically going over what CDDs are and what the process is. But if not, we can open up the public hearing. And
I would open it up for public comment.
Second.
We have one registered speaker, Garrett FX Byron.
Trees have we killed tonight?
For the record, I've been a developer in Collier and Lee County for 55 years. I couldn't believe it was that many years, and I remembered I turned and looked over there and I said, wait a minute, what happened to Tom Francino? He's different attorney, right? In any case, I'm here to ask a question because many years ago I was,
I'm sorry, so you're Garrett?
yes, that's my first name, Garrett Francis Xavier Byron.
There you go. Didn't know.
Long and short is that I was given the job of getting the easements to build Bonita Grand Drive, which I named Bonita Grand Drive, not Bonita Grande. And then the name of our project was called, it was actually a 27-hole golf course. It had 50 acres of commercial at Terry Street. And the coup de grace I had in there was I made a deal with Billy Carter, not Jimmy Carter, to build me 80 spec modular houses where they were sheetrocked inside instead of plywood. And this was to be compatible at the time with the Trost International Mobile Home Park, which was next to me, but we were doing it a little nicer. And long and short was they denied me the application, and my engineer was Grady Miner. He was also my next door neighbor. That helped. But long and short is that they denied it because he said, we believe that that is the recharge aquifer for all of Lee County. And I believe they were telling the truth because for the most part, it was an area that was always had water sitting on it. So eventually, after 7 years it took me, I acquired through purchasing the land easement rights to build the road. I had given that job to my first lawyer, and he wasn't able to get me one easement, and I needed a total of 14. So long and short, I got the road built. I had to build a bridge over the Kiel Canal because that whole area needed to be drained generally because it was lowland farming area. However, upon being denied the right to actually build all these units in a golf course and everything else, we decided to go ahead and do the next best thing, which was mine the property, which unfortunately don't draw plans on a napkin in a delicatessen and say, you know what, if I develop that property as a mine, it has $175 million worth of fill on it. And unfortunately, it would take you 175 years to actually mine that much fill. And that came from experts too, not me. In any case, I needed to know specifically, and this came out of Collier County, they told me that in the future on the properties I have, I'm going to need to go back and find out who actually owns the land underneath these easements and whether or not they want to sell you the right to use their easements. And this is complicated also due to Bert Saunders vacating all of the easement rights in Golden Gate Estates. And at this point in time, I just want to know who owns Bonita Grand Drive, because after the last time I went up it, they said, well, there's another extension that isn't built yet through the Cypress that we weren't allowed to touch anyway. And the bottom line is there's already another 2 miles of going up, which I didn't even know how to get there because you can't go there. You hit a dead end, and then it's up into, I'm assuming it's still Lee County, but may not be. So does anybody know, and how would I find out?
Thank you, Garrett. Yeah, you can reach out to community development.
Or
Who in particular? Because who would you?
right there. Or our city attorney.
Who should I do?
Jackie, right? She raised her hand.
Jackie
She
is
volunteered.
Jackie? I can actually. That's a
Jackie
human
say
being.
something.
Okay, good. Okay, that's very good. Okay, I'll
you,
talk to Jackie. Thank you.
All right, anybody else? Public comment on this item only. All right, seeing none.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion a second. Roll call.
Councilmember Fullick.
Aye.
Councilmember Bogas.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Purdon.
Aye.
Councilmember Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Gibson.
Aye.
Councilmember Corey.
Aye.
Councilmember Fullick. Motion carries.
All right, city attorney items.
I have two items for you. I'm going to go ahead and go the second item first because there are people who've been waiting here patiently to get that done. And that is, a couple months back, we had the Dean Street RPD that you all recall. There was a number of neighbors came out. The council had concerns, public had concerns. The project was, the rezoning was denied. A few months later, we received a notice under the Florida Land Use Environmental Dispute Resolution Act, which is a mandatory mediation and essentially an arbitration process. The city met with the applicant on the property. Councilman Fullick was there. We spent effectively the whole day coming up with a revised mediated plan. That plan addresses almost all, I believe, all the comments that were raised during the public hearing. It reduces the density another 15 or 20%. And before you, we have a revised, the agreement, which only calls for bringing this back at an expedited basis for first and second reading by October 15th with a plan that essentially mirrors that master concept plan. The plan that's attached to the agreement in front of you will have one small tweak. There was a typo that was found earlier today that Mr. Davies pointed out to me, and we'll have that revised, but staff has reviewed and it doesn't make any material changes. So we can go through the details of that, but you'll see it again as far as a first and second reading. And I do believe that it reflects a good mediated settlement between what the public and council had concerns about and what the developer's original intentions were.
How many units?
6.
42.
Reduced it by 6.
Motion to move ahead.
Oh, Chris, you had a question?
Oh, sorry.
No, I just said I reviewed the material when it was sent out, and I think it's a fair settlement as a result of mediation, and so I'm comfortable with moving ahead and using that settlement for the first reading.
All right, so we have a motion and
Need a second.
Second.
a second.
Well, I made a motion. Okay, whatever. Let's move along.
Public comment? Okay,
Councilmember Bogas.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Purdon. Councilmember Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Gibson.
aye.
Councilmember Corey.
Aye.
Councilmember Fullick.
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, the next item, actually, I'm going to have, there'll be one more as well. The next item is a review and extension of revised fee arrangement for Gray Robinson, my own fees. I mentioned this last year that I'd be bringing it to you. I haven't changed, we haven't updated our rates since we were initially hired, so it's been 5 years now. Looking to update it to our current government rates. That's the rate that we apply to all local governments, and so that would go from $225 to $300.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call?
Deputy Mayor Purdon.
Aye.
Councilmember Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Gibson.
Aye.
Councilmember Corey.
Aye.
Councilmember Fullick.
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Bogas.
Aye.
And I'll point out that the main arrangement that we have with the city is that we pay a retainer, we bill against the retainer. If we're able to stay under that, we split the fees. I have not raised the retainer amount. I still believe even with the essentially 33% increase that we will still come in under the budget. And I expect to be returning another large check to the city this year as well. The next item is a walk-on item, and I apologize for, but it was a kind of an exigent circumstances. Back in July, we made an amendment agreement with Zap & Co., which was the provider for Fiesta Bonita. Given the time frame, the Fiesta Bonita was going to be this weekend on the 20th. They have asked to move that until Riverside Park is available again in the spring. So I've consulted with Mr. Paz, came up with a revised agreement, but this agreement does, because when we had here in July, we forwarded the money so that they could make the deposits and get everything lined up. All that does now is, rather than cancel, risk any of those deposit monies, the deposits will be held, they'll move forward, the balance will be returned to the city, and Mr. Paz can draw upon it ahead of the new event. And so instead of doing 2025 Fiesta Bonita, it'll be in the 2026 year, and we'll just move forward with
Motion
that.
to approve.
And I got a signed, I just got back, heard back from him and got a signed agreement earlier in the meeting, so.
It's,
Great.
I mean, honestly,
good
it's just a couple months down the road, but it's a new fiscal year, and this is just a smooth way to do it, so. It makes sense, and to get back in Riverside Park, it just makes sense. Trying to fix it and stick it in there by the Lyles with all the fences.
I'm sorry.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
I'll second Laura's motion.
Yes, my question, basically, so we're doing one festival
Yep.
next year, so there won't be one in the fall?
No.
Okay,
And we're
one
just
spend.
carrying, and actually we'll be saving money because we're carrying over the funds from this
Okay, so
fiscal
it's a
year.
single spend next year,
Yeah,
okay.
and we didn't, in the original RFP that went out, even though it was a 2-year agreement, we did not have funds guaranteed for 2026 in either case.
Okay, thank you.
Right, motion and second, roll call.
Councilmember Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Gibson.
Aye.
Councilmember Corey.
Aye.
Councilmember Fullick. Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Bogas.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Purden. Motion carries.
City manager items.
Oh, so we're here to, item A, to review the city's 2026 legislative priorities so that we have an upcoming meeting with Senator Martin, with the mayor, myself, and Arlene, and session's going to start early, so we took what came out of the last meeting, synthesized it, and would like your comments and approval.
I think what you've got written is a fair summary of what we all put together.
Is the order the emphasis, or is that flexible? Because I didn't agree with the order of priorities.
Well, I think it said it wasn't in any priority order.
They're usually in no particular order other than just enumerated.
And then it can be broken out so that infrastructure is not only for bike and walking, but it's also for motor vehicle infrastructure.
Yeah, sure.
Well, because it's written twice that it's for the bike paths. So what do you need? Motion?
Yes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second, roll call.
Mayor Gibson.
Aye.
Councilmember Corey.
Aye.
Councilmember Fullick. Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Bogas.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Purden. Councilmember Carr.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, next item is item B. It's, have Lisa come up and present, but it's pertaining to solicitation of auditors for the upcoming year.
Hello. Yes, it is time for us to solicit bids for our independent audit services as outlined in Florida statute. As the auditors report to City Council, it is required and recommended that City Council serve as the selection committee. So today we're asking you all to appoint yourself as the selection committee and direct staff to issue the RFP that's attached. And then once the solicitations come in, staff will review them for legal sufficiency. You all have 2 CPAs on staff, myself and Evan. I believe you've met Evan before. He's our accounting supervisor. We've both been independent auditors of local governments for 6 years each. So we'll review those for sufficiency with Florida statutes and accounting guidelines. And this type of services are really regulated by the accounting procedures, so it's not very subjective. You can't really tell them how to do what they do. They follow their professional guidelines, and so we're looking for y'all's approval, and we will be back when we get our proposals.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion and second, roll call.
Councilmember Corey.
Aye.
Councilmember Fullick. Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Bogas. Deputy Mayor Purdon. Councilmember Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Gibson. Motion carries.
Great. We have John Dolmer to give a monthly community development activity report.
Good evening. If you'll give me a couple minutes to load this up, we only have about 47 slides to get through.
Oh, my God.
A brief report.
It's
A brief.
It's toward the top, John. It's
This,
the PDF, I believe.
oh, the P, okay. Well, we've already done that.
Thank God.
Thank you, Mike. Okay. We've been busy. To go through this quickly, there's a change in this report. Probably the biggest thing is that we were putting in a total number of phone calls that were coming into the main number. We have upgraded our phone system. Unfortunately, the upgrade doesn't allow us to simply sort the number of calls that are coming in. We're trying to get around that problem to put it back in so you won't see the number of calls that we see or that you normally see every month. I have also had a request to provide what some of the acronyms and abbreviations are. So as we work down here, I want to see if there's one that we can see a little bit better. Maybe I'll go back up here. So on this graph, administrative deviations is ADD. I wish I should have brought my glasses. Consumption on premises is COP.
How about you just supply us it in
You wanna-
writing and
Yeah, we can go all night.
What's the COL, John?
Cost of living?
Oh, color permit. Thank you. I was going to say that's for color permits for commercial buildings.
Thank you.
So our focus, or at least most of our attention right now, has been spent in the development order and building stage. So most of our workload has been there. We do still have a number of zoning applications that are going to be working their way to you over the fall. So there's not going to be a shortage of opportunities to make zoning decisions. And we'll see as those work their way through the process. Obviously, those turn into development orders, which then turn into building permits. So I do not see a workload for community development slowing down, at least for the foreseeable future. So I don't know if there's any questions. Thank you all for your time tonight on the zoning hearings. I appreciate it.
I have a comment, and I'm going to mention this because John and Mike and I met earlier this week trying to figure it out. So the state has not only preempted a great number of decisions from the city, but they have required us to meet very strict timelines on getting permits out. So an application put in for a zoning hearing has to basically race through the process. And so what ends up happening is we get a lot of situations like we had tonight where we have essentially competing plans. We don't have an agreed upon set of standards. We may have the applicant want to have one set of standards and staff recommending a different. And so we're going to be looking at that and how we address that going forward.
And along those lines, I find that very frustrating in terms of multiple requests, multiple things, especially when they come in at the last minute and they need to be heard at that hearing. So there's a couple of things we are kicking around ideas to make sure that what's presented to you all by the time it gets to you is clear. You understand what's being requested. We don't have competing requests, last minute changes. Those annoy me. So we will do what we can to kind of limit those while still meeting the time requirements.
Well, can we say that they didn't meet the time requirements? That the onus is put on the applicant?
In the legislature's wisdom, that time
Oh.
requirement was placed entirely upon the municipality and not upon the applicant.
Yeah, so the way it works is essentially you and I don't want to spend money for the city, but you have to review for initial sufficiency, make sure the application is in and reviewed, which takes time and people, unless we were to invest in, automatic systems or electronic systems that could do those checks for us. But basically, once that starts, the clock starts running, and we can reject them for being insufficient or having issues only a limited number of times before they are entitled to an up or down vote, which means a project could come forward that staff has recommended denial against the entire time and moves forward to that level. So we're discussing the issues, but we also know that if things get bogged down, you guys get calls, and understand that we're trying to set up processes so that it's not a constant revolving door of things, that there's a point where stuff comes in and we know, we can tell them, as long as you keep up with your time, we'll get you heard by this date. That would be the way to keep them moving along. But that's not the way we have it set up right now, because every year we're getting new obligations put on us, and we're trying to figure out what they are. And some of those obligations will be no more public hearings. Some of them will be building permits. You got to issue half the building permits on a project that hasn't been approved yet. That kind of stuff is coming through every year.
John, I had one question.
Yes, sir.
And maybe it's trying to empty a 5-gallon bucket with a thimble, but the automated permitting process, we discussed it a couple of years ago, whatever. Is that gonna help, and where are we with that?
So a couple of years ago, things were kind of in their infancy. You really had to learn how to manipulate and ride the wave with that, because if you weren't involved in helping program it, you couldn't really get it to do what you needed it to do of any real scale. A lot of those programs have started to advance. They've started to get to the point where it is, if the data is included in the submittals or the data is included in the program, it can provide you pretty accurate answers. A lot of those things, though, we had talked about, like an automated program that can tell you where you can put a shed in your backyard. To do that, you're going to have to load up all the subdivision plats in Bonita Springs. You're going to have to record all the easements. You're going to have to put a lot of the regulations that you have in place to make sure that the data that comes out doesn't miss the fact that you're trying to put a shed in a drainage easement, or some of the GIS that the county has. A lot of times, if those lines don't meet, and they don't meet regularly, they're simply snapping to fit so that there's a straight line. That line does not mean that's exactly where the property line is or where an easement line is. So we are light years ahead of where we were when we had that conversation a few years ago, but there's still a lot of legwork that needs to be done with any of those programs to get them to the point where they can produce reliable and quick results for the public. So Mr. Mayor, this may be your opportunity to bring in the AI. I would imagine if we're not looking at some programs in the next year or so, it's going to be shortly thereafter, because I think that's where a lot of the quick reviews and the quick comments are going, because you can get an answer immediately as opposed to having someone go back and research that data.
But there's more competition now, and they're getting to a point where it could help us.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And a human will review.
Correct. What ideally, when you can build a program up to the point where you know the data that's included in all the decisions, certain things can be handed over for automation. But you have to build to that point. It's not going to come right out of the box. It's not going to be the first 6 months it's in place. It's going to have to be slowly added to as you go through time.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you all very much.
Hurricane recovery efforts.
So Lee County has recently allowed their local states of emergency for Hurricanes Helene and Milton to expire as of September 1st, and we're looking probably to do the same with October 1st. It's a primary update.
Is there any benefits for residents by keeping it in effect longer, or are we?
I think we've pretty well exhausted that.
All right, yeah.
And then I have one final thing. DPZ, who was going to be here tonight and unfortunately had a scheduling conflict, they have confirmed they will be presenting the Lyles Plaza project to the City Council at the October 1st meeting.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. That's it.
All right, Mayor and council member reports. Jamie.
Yes, I'm sure that many of you have heard over the weekend, Bonita Springs Fire Department ran a call on I-75. And at that call, one of our battalion chiefs at the fire department was struck by a car. And he is currently in ICU, but he is doing better. He's not quite out of the woods yet, but I did want to report that he is doing better, and prayers and everything go out to him and his family. And just a reminder for everyone to slow down and move over for emergency lights and vehicles. It is the law to move over, and unfortunately, when that doesn't happen, this is the result. So that's all I have to report on, but thank you.
Jesse.
May God bless the battalion chief and his family. I'd say the same to Charlie Kirk's family. And then on a lighter note, You know, it was great to, I saw a lot of you there or at Blakely's retirement. You know, he's given over 30 years to this community. He's been the backbone of the redevelopment of our downtown, because Lee County has just been such a great part of making us what we are, and he's just done a great job, you know, keeping us in the right direction. So I know his wife's happy to have him back, but I know we as a city are going to miss him quite a bit. So shout out to him and his wife for all they've given us over the years.
Laura?
Well, I have a bunch of things, but I think since it's been a long evening, I'm just going to say prayers for Charlie Kurt and his family, and for our country to come together and agree to disagree and not to result in assassination. And then glee is just not America. So I do pray for our country and for Charlie Kurt and the command battalion chief that was struck on 75. So I'll talk about brighter and more interesting things next meeting.
Yeah, Chris?
A couple things. Adam Botana and Senator Martin are working with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection and Florida Forever to try to find funds so that we can complete the funding for the purchase of the railroad right-of-way. It's a tight year with the budget in the state, so we'll see how they come out on that. But I think Adam is hopeful we're going to come up with perhaps not all the purchase price, but enough to go back to Seminole Gulf and say, you know, here's what we can spend. I would like to encourage further work on the bicycle speed ordinance, especially downtown. There will be some requests coming forward, I think, from the Wonder Gardens. There's going to be a meeting with people from community development and parks and recreation and myself with respect to an animal care facility. It's an urgent need of the Wonder Gardens, to the point that some people that work with the animals at the Wonder Gardens are dismayed by the animal care facilities we have. We need to fix that as soon as we can. So we're probably looking at some sort of interim solution, something involving either storage containers or modular, because completing a permanent building is going to be take a while. But if we can come up with something to better improve animal care that we can use in the short term. But the whole meeting this coming week is going to be trying to figure out what we can do. Just to emphasize the impact of the work in the Riverside Park on the organizations in the community, I'm on the board of Arts Bonita, and we've adjusted our budget because we're not going to be able to have the same kind of fundraising efforts that we've had in the past because of the construction. That really impacts us from a standpoint of budgets that we need to carry out our work at the Performing Arts Center and the Visual Arts Center. And I'm sure other charities feel the same way. So I just wanted to highlight that. So that's all I've got.
Just real quick, and Nicole, you're here, so correct me if I'm wrong. We are going to be actually able to have Veterans Day at the park, at Riverside Park, but Memorial Day now will have to be over at the Lyles Hotel, so we're swapping the 2 dates. Am I correct, ma'am?
You are correct.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yes, that is what we're working towards. We are on track for our current reopening of Riverside Park at the end of October, so that we can have our normal regular season events, and then we will close back down in the spring in order to complete the phase 2 of the project.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Second thing is, thank you all for allowing me to spend 7 hours and 20 minutes with our esteemed city attorney in
I wasn't
that
there the whole
mediation.
time. I was not there the whole time.
That's true. It was a great process, but my compliments to Derek, the way he handled himself, the way that he sort of orchestrates with the applicants, et cetera. and they really were surprisingly amenable, but it was a good process. But staff and Derek, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Nigel. Seriously, thank you.
Two items. The first of which I do want to thank the folks at the Fire District for the Patriots' Day ceremony on 9/11. Unfortunately, with the weather, it was not well attended, and I would encourage that our continued voice gets out there for next year's celebration and ceremony, because it is something that is very, it impacted all of us in terms of that day back in on 9/11. Second items to that point, and also with veterans and that type of thing, is changing dialogues with the Daughters of the American Revolution. They will be sponsoring the Wreaths Across America at the Bonita Springs Cemetery on Saturday, December the 13th. I will place a reminder for all of those that can attend to be part of that ceremony.
Thank you, Jim. And, sorry I wasn't at the 9/11 remembrance. I was out of town. But I also would like to, say prayers for the battalion chief and Charlie Kirk's family. And then also just have a reminder, next month our meeting times have changed for both meetings. We kind of flipped them. So the first meeting on Wednesday, October 1st will be at 9 a.m. and then our second meeting will be at 5:30 p.m. Just a reminder there. So, all right. And with that, we are at public comment. So, anybody from the public that would like to speak about anything?
So I'm from Michigan. I just became a resident here this year. While I've been coming down here for probably 20 years and owned a place here for the last 10 years, I've only become a resident this year. I'm very involved in politics in Michigan. I run a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization focused on election integrity. We've been raising money and buying data from the Secretary of State since the 2020 election. We were the organization that identified the 125,000 duplicate votes 2 weeks before the 2024 election, and then worked with 11 other states where we were able to get data and found the same situation in 11 states. And I only give you that as background for what I'm about to say. I was disappointed in this process. I requested to be able to present on the video screen, but you don't allow that from the public. You give the people who have big pockets and are trying to put development in a platform where they get to use the screens and we don't. You give them unlimited time to talk and we don't get that. And I understand that we can't always get that, but I do think that we should have the same ability to make our points as they have. I also am disappointed that I called more than one of you on this team and I never got a return phone call. We are your constituents and we should get return phone calls. So I'm kind of disappointed in how this has gone. I also am disappointed that you're doing this during the peak of hurricane season. The peak of hurricane season is September 10th. Most people leave during this time of year because of the risk, if they have any ability to do that, and yet you did something very controversial during that time. And so I just wanted to present my concerns on that. I really appreciate you taking the time to boat through there and understand how narrow these canals are and how shallow they are. But I really think that the processes need to be revised. And when I'm fully down here in the middle of October, I will be happy to work with you on doing that.
Sandy,
thank you for your time.
Sandy, I know you said your name earlier, but will you say
Sandy Kiesel.
Thank you, Sandy. Any other public comment? Seeing none, motion to adjourn?
Second.
Adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.